Hey everybody, and thanks for watching another episode of The Other 99. Today we're going to take a look at a Dralnu Lich Lord deck built by viewer Lily. Let's take a look at the general. Dralnu Lich Lord is a 3/3 for 5, so he's not the best beater in the world. Not only that, if he takes damage, you have to sacrifice permanents. So this guy is pretty terrible, right? Wrong. It is the second part of Dralnu's text box that redeems him. You can tap him to give a spell in your graveyard flashback. That means that Dralnu is like having a Snapcaster Mage you can use every turn. This deck aims to play awesome spells, cast and protect Dralnu, and then use his ability as a one-way ticket to Value Town. When you have a general as powerful and vulnerable as Dralnu, you have to have some support cards. Catalyst Stone makes all of your flashback costs cheaper and your opponents more expensive. Freed from Real and Manamo School at Water's Edge both allow you to untap Dralnu in order to get the most bang for your buck. Trick Bind stops all sorts of triggered abilities, especially graveyard hate cards like Bajuka Bog and Loaming Shaman that would make Dralnu a very sad Lich Lord. Spellskite. It's a champion blocker and keeps nasty spells away from Dralnu and all your other dudes. Lightning Greaves. Dralnu doesn't have haste and needs to be protected, and Greaves does both on the cheap. Elgwad Shieldmate gives Dralnu hexproof and has hexproof herself. Elgwad Shieldmate is like a creature version of Diplomatic Immunity. Riptide Laboratory can save Dralnu from damage as well as bouncing all other wizards in the deck. Core Dirge, for those times when Dralnu is about to take a lot of damage. Sadistic Sacrament, a scalpel that removes all sorts of problems such as Eldrazi that would make your mill cards useless, combo pieces, and the removal and graveyard hate that can cripple the deck. Boseiju, who shelters all, forces all your important spells through. Traumatize fills your graveyard up with all sorts of fun cards, or puts some creatures into an opponent's graveyard to steal with Havengal Lich or Beacon of Unrest. Dralnu has black in his mana cost, so that means Tutors, and if any general is great for abusing Tutors, it's Dralnu. Beseech the Queen, Demonic Tutor, Diabolic Tutor, Liliana Vess. Awesome black Tutors. Fabricate finds Mana Rocks, Greaves, Ratchet Bomb, Catalyst Stone, and Library Manipulation artifacts. Perplex and Clutch of the Undercity can transmute for all the 3 and 4 mana cost cards you need, and can then be cast with Dralnu for even more value. Trinket Mage, gotta get that top. Talaria West, find those important lands. Like a lot of commander decks, this one plays a bit of ramp and mana fixing. Dimir Signet and Chromatic Lantern helps you fix your colors. Soul Ring, turn 3 Dralnu. Jessian Zombie and Twisted Abomination, color fixing that can turn sideways in a pinch. A lot of commander decks opt for a small suite of only the best and most swingy counterspells, but since Dralnu lets you cast your spells twice, this deck opts for high volume of cheap counter magic. Broken Ambitions and Induced Paranoia. They're counterspells that have the added bonus of dumping goodies into your opponent's graveyard. Counterspell, Countersquall, and Rewind. Solid counterspells. Traumatic Visions can be used to find a land in the early game, and they can be flashed back in the late game to counter a spell. Mindbreak Trap, stop combo players cold. Soul Manipulation, Essence Scatter plus Disentomb. Void Mage Husher, can counter all sorts of activated abilities and bounce itself. Like any control deck, this one plays some awesome removal and sweepers. Avatar of Woe is an awesome beater whose tap ability can kill anything in sight. The mill subtheme in this deck makes it easy to cast her for only 2 mana. Not to mention she's cool as the target of a kicked Rite of Replication. Death Pulse, a card that kills all sorts of small utility creatures and can cycle itself. Thysis is an expensive spell, but one that can take out any creature and deal its controller a lot of damage. Profane Command is mostly used in this deck to kill indestructible creatures and make your opponents lose life. Spin into Myth, tuck generals and indestructible creatures. It may cost 5 mana, but the effect is worth it, especially at instant speed. Wipe Away. One-shot bounce isn't always the best, but when it has split second, it's a lot more useful. Keep a shot at Dralnu from ruining your board, or save yourself from a big general damage or poison swing. Feast or Famine can remove creatures or make an emergency chump blocker. Decree of Pain can be cycled early to wipe out token armies or cast late game to wipe the board and draw tons of cards. Devastation Tide can wipe the board for 2 mana if miracled. Quite a bargain. Ratchet Bomb takes care of tokens or crank it up to wipe out artifacts and enchantments. Most blue and black decks would play tons of draw power, but in a deck that packs a lot of tutors that can be used more than once, tutoring for cards is often better than drawing them. Crystal Ball, Sensei's Divining Top, and Scroll Rack They help filter what cards you draw. Ponder and Gitaxian Probe are cheap card draw power that is always good to flash back. Megas of the Future. Casting cards from the top of your library means that your hand size is one bigger, and casting a card from the top gets you a new card. If you use Liliana with him out, you can cast the card you just tutored for. Consult the Necrosages. Gives you either a Divination or a Mind Rot, whichever is better. Siphon Mind. Draw a few cards and annoy your opponents at the same time. What could be better? River Kelpie. A powerhouse straw engine in this deck. He has persist, so he's hard to get rid of, and anytime you steal from an opponent's graveyard or cast cards with Dralnu, he triggers. Not to mention, he gives you the edge if there is another graveyard-based deck at the table. Jace Memory Adept. Can mill and draw cards, both of which are useful to this deck. What sort of blue or black deck doesn't steal creatures and spells from its opponents? This deck's mill sub-theme means it can do that better than most decks. Beacon of Unrest. That awesome creature artifact you just made your opponent mill? Well, it's yours now. Especially awesome with creatures that remove artifacts and enchantments. Phyrexian Metamorph. Kills legendary creatures or copies your opponent's cool stuff. You'll make better use of it anyway. Twincast. The only things more annoying to your opponents than one Temporal Extortion is two Temporal Extortions. Echo Mage. Twincast on a body. Memory Plunder. Thank you for the wrath, my good sir. Don't mind if I flash this back and help myself to your return to dust. Rite of Replication. Copy an opponent's creature or just make yourself 5 River Kelpies. Sakashima the Imposter. Has all the normal advantages of a clone, but Sakashima bounces himself and can copy Talrand or Rexiel without killing them. Havengo Lich. Can bring back Dralnu on the cheap and uses his ability that turn, or can cast all the other creatures that end up in the graveyards in the course of a commander game. Rexiel the Risen Deep. Memory Plunder on a body. Rexiel also has Swamp Walk and Island Walk, which means he's most likely unblockable to at least one person at the table. You may have noticed that this deck doesn't run very many creatures, so how's it supposed to win without turning dudes sideways? Dream Halls. It may let your opponents in on the fun, but Dream Halls still lets you cast more of your spells for free. Also, with Havengo Lich on the battlefield, you can discard a card and pay 1 to get blue or black creatures from any graveyard. Painful Quandary. Choosing between a card or 5 life seems simple until life totals start to dip. This card would be good on its own, but is in this deck because it makes Dream Halls a little more in your favor. Your opponents will have to either discard an extra card to use Dream Halls or lose 5 life. Dream Halls is a lot better when you're the only one who doesn't have to make that decision. Exsanguinate. The classic black finisher and mana sink. Talrand Sky Summoner. Dralnu lets you cast your instants and sorceries over and over. Why not make an army of flying drakes at the same time? Copying this guy with Sakashima means making 2 drakes at a time. Temporal Extortion. As a one-shot effect, making someone choose between an extra turn for you or half their life isn't a big deal. It becomes a problem when you twin cast it and flash it back. Time Stretch. Blue's go-to extra turn source. With Dream Halls out, this card is a killer. The land count in this deck is lower than most, but this deck only needs about 5 mana to get going. Baron Moor, Caverner of Souls, Darkslick Shores, Dimir Aqueduct, Drowned Catacombs, Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, Evolving Wilds, Frostmarsh, Halimar Depths, Maze of Ith, Jwar Isle Refuge, Lonely Sandbar, Reliquary Tower, Watery Grave, Seed of the Synod, Vesuva, Terramorphic Expanse, Vault of Whispers, and 6 islands and 6 swamps. And now for the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. For its strengths. Having Dralnu is like having a Snapcaster Mage every turn. Cards with Transmute or Cycling are very valuable because you can cast them after they've been discarded. Lots of tutors, cheap counter magic, and draw power make this deck run smoothly, even without Dralnu. Dream Halls allows you to win the game very quickly. For its weaknesses. Dralnu is very fragile and can wreck your board position. Graveyard Hate makes Dralnu useless. Fast aggro decks are problematic. You should play this deck if you like flashback, you like abusing everyone's graveyards, you want a deck with lots of cheap utility, you like to play very powerful cards without breaking them too much. Lily's take on a powerful general with a steep drawback is a labor of love, and we hope it inspires you to tackle the generals that are a little bit tougher to build around. Thanks to Lily for sharing her deck with us. For next time, comment on our Facebook, tweet us back on Twitter, and comment on YouTube to vote for either Thrawn the Last Troll, Visara the Dreadful, or Nin the Pain Artist. Until next time, this is Karsten from Top Level Productions. As always, thanks for watching.